So in here we should have two new dive watches from Chinese brand Merkur. Now I've got a video coming up about the best Casio Duro alternatives, or we're going to see if anything can compete with the Casio Duro. And these low price divers looked really tempting online, so I asked Merkur if they could send them across and they agreed. So I figured we'd take a look at them, see really how it stacks up in the flesh, and you'll probably see some more coverage of these in that upcoming video on Ben's Watch Club. I think there's also another Merkur diver that I did buy with my own money that's on its way as well from China right now. Anyway, let's dive in and see what these guys have got in store for us. Now, the key thing with both of these, unlike 99.9% of AliExpress dive watches, is that they both appear to be original designs and not just copies of other luxury watches. These, I think, are kind of based on previous Chinese military watches to some degree. As you can imagine, documentation on that sort of thing is pretty hard to come by. Yeah, I get the impression from the product description that that's kind of what these are. And I definitely haven't seen anything quite like these on the Western market. I'll leave a link to both of them in the video description, by the way, if you want to pick any of them up. Merkur is probably my favourite AliExpress brand at the moment, because they do tend to have some more of these original designs compared to most on the platform. What a strange crown. So first impressions with both of these, I mean, I think these look much better in person than they do online, for sure. The left one has got this pretty nice dial texture. I think the right one also looks pretty good. And they've got huge luminescent blocks there, as you can see. Those markers really are fairly chunky. And both of these are retailing for, typically, you can get them for around 100 quid, sometimes as low as about £80. I always tend to have some sort of discount codes for AliExpress in general, which I'll lob in the description too if I can find any. So you might even be able to get them cheaper than that, at which point they do start rivaling the Casio Duro in terms of price in many regions like the UK. Not sure how you guys in the US still get those for so cheap. But yeah, these aren't actually quartz either. These are, as you can see, mechanical. I think they're probably both hand wound. I'll get the specs up in a moment, but that crown on this right hand one is peculiar. So I got the impression here that this was like a screw down crown that just wasn't screwed in, but no, you'll see here it is just deliberately like jutted out, and I'm assuming that's to make sure it goes past the edge of the bezel here, but never seen one quite like that before. Let's see, is this actually just a push-pull? Yeah, this is just a push-pull, so not sure what water resistance rating they're claiming with this, so it can't really have more than 10 bar, at least in my experience. It does have a screwed case back. But yeah, let's get you the basic specs while we're on that note. On the surface, both of these do look pretty similar. You just have one with a bezel and one without. Here we go. Now, Merkur watches, one of the quirks with them is that they don't tend to actually have model names. The title for this listing that these were from, it just calls this the 24 Rubis, which I'm assuming is rubies, Chinese first diver watch. So I'm assuming that's why they've got like this retro design, because they're based on like one of the original Chinese designs. And yeah, these look way, way better in the flesh than they do online. I mean, the pictures make them look really underwhelming, but no, actually pretty decent. So let's have a look at the specs. So for the one on the right, yeah, it is kind of more like a dive style watch. Only 5 bar water resistance, so you may be able to submerge it for shorter lengths of time, which is a pretty modest and probably realistic claim here. At least they're not going for 200 meters when it had no real chance of that. As for the rest of it, you got a stainless steel case here. Not much of a product description with this one. I'd say this is, might be 316, might be 304 steel. You can see it's just the case with lots of these really low cost watches. They just sometimes have this extra bit of shininess that does just make you question, is it 316? Do you get the impression this may be 304? Does come with a rather nice looking steel bracelet there, and the crystal is listed as mineral for both of these, or hardlex, which just means either mineral or a hardened mineral crystal. As for the movement, well, this will almost certainly be some form of in-house made Chinese standard movement. So it is a mechanical movement, and yeah, no rotor sound or anything, so this is definitely hand wound. This one looks much, much better than the stock images. It's got a smooth bi-directional bezel, has a really good level of stoppage, shall we say, on this one. Some of them feel too loose, like those on Vostok watches sometimes. I've been playing around with this that I bought the other day. This is for the same video, really. It's the Vostok Amphibia. And this is a great looking watch, actually. Very similar colour scheme. I'll also link it below, but it's does have a very loose bezel, maybe a bit looser than I'd like. Whereas this one, you can place it and really leave it and it won't move, which I think is generally better. It looks very, very clean for the cost, though, I have to say. Up close, really does. No attempt at any dodgy Western branding either. It's nice to see them go the full Chinese route on this one. I think it tends to suit the watches a bit better. Yeah, Beads of Rice bracelet is very, very good actually for the money. Doesn't have any micro adjusts here because it is a butterfly clasp, but the links are pretty small as you can see, so it's unlikely to be a problem there. And the case back both looks solid and has a pretty quirky little design. So it's got like an engraved or etched design in there with the little panda there eating some bamboo. Not really sure what any of that stuff on the back means, but perhaps one of you can tell me in the comments. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 locations in there. But yeah, the back looks like no issue with water. Maybe that will be. I know that screw down crowns on hand-wound watches aren't particularly common. Just from a practical standpoint, it just kind of makes more sense to keep it not screw down so you can instantly wind the watch, right? Not having to fiddle with too much on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, as a whole, that one looks pretty good. Let's take a look at this other one. Now, this other one has the more obvious super raised crystal you can see there. And this other one may have something similar, but it's concealed mostly by the bezel. I'll quickly just check to make sure there's no difference. Again, just says stainless steel for the case. Might be 316L, might be 304, can't quite tell with these watches. There's no real way of measuring it either. This one also has just a push-pull crown, slightly different crown this time. I'm guessing because it doesn't need to jut out from the bezel. Movement, I've just put the movement up to my ear and it is relatively quiet actually for a hand wound. Not sure precisely what's in the back of these, but I'm assuming it's the same again with this one. This one just has that advantage of a slightly nicer dial, and there you go. It's just nice to be able to actually get a fairly original design at this price. Seem few and far between, especially on AliExpress. This one has a slightly different mountaineering case back. There you go. You can see it's got some text on there, and it's got some sort of mountain range. Not sure exactly which one that will be. Perhaps the Himalayas, don't they border with China maybe? And again, this one also has, what is it? Yeah, 5 bar water resistance, which is probably accurate, I would say, given the screwed rear, and the same bracelet again. As for which I prefer, I actually not really sure, but I will give them a quick measure up, and then we'll give them a quick lume test as well, because maybe that will reveal some pros and cons for them. I think maybe the left one is a touch more versatile. On the left, what have we got here? 38mm wide, just under. Lug to lug, 45 on the nose. Quite thin even considering the big crystal. Just under 12.5 at the very centre, because it is raised and domed as well. Discounting the crystal, which gives you a more kind of accurate feel for the watch. This is what it feels more like. 8.8mm there, so it is very thin. And then for this other one with the bezel, it does look like there is some overhang, so this should be a bit bigger. Yeah, 39.3 there, including the bezel. And I'm assuming these other two should be pretty much exactly the same. Maybe a tad longer actually on this one, even though it looks really similar. 45.4. And with the crystal, it is a little bit thicker too, 13.2. If you just count the bezel, about 10mm, so not bad. And here's a look at the first one on my 6¼ inch wrist. This was the 38mm watch. Does wear maybe a tiny bit bigger than the size suggests, I think, because the dial looks quite wide and there's no bezel. Wears more like a 39, maybe 39.5mm watch. But either way, whether it really fits me or not, it's just such a much better alternative than buying something like a Sterling original off Amazon or something. You know, like one of these already Chinese-made homage watches that's just trash quality up close. This actually looks really clean up close. And yeah, you got that pretty unique design as well. Not to mention that mechanical movement, which is most likely in-house. It doesn't say here, but most Merkur watches are. And like I said, I have seen these semi-often for under £100. At which point you can't really moan, can you? I mean, that dial surface also looks great. All applied markers too from the looks of it. So surprising little pickup here. I don't think I've ever seen anyone talk about this watch. And here's the black higher contrast option with that bezel. And just have a quick look here if these come in any other colours too. Now they do come in multiple different case colours, but the dials seem pretty fixed. So I wonder if originally these were the only kind of choices when this watch was originally launched all those years ago, whenever it was. It does swear a little bit bigger, but doesn't look that much different on the wrist, this one. And what you'll notice with the vast majority of these Merkur watches, they all tend to wear quite flush to the arm, as you can see. They do have quite the taper at the lugs, so you don't get huge gaps under the lugs, which is good. But they do also reuse cases between models. It's one of these little tricks that these smaller, cheaper brands like Addies Dive as well tend to do. It's a simple way of keeping costs down without really reducing quality, if you like. Just reduces the individuality a little bit. But so far, really impressed with these. Let's see if it's all for show, though. Let's see if it all falls apart with low light performance. Now, low light performance has always been a bit of an Achilles heel for Merkur watches and for AliExpress watches in general. So I'm not expecting great things here, but these pair do have really big markers, which may help. So yeah, let's see how we get on. Good initial brightness, at least, with both of them. But now, after just 15-20 seconds or so, they both have faded rather quickly, especially the one on the right, actually. The green marker one definitely is clinging on better, but neither surpass like a 3.5 or 4 out of 10, sadly. Yeah, definitely room for improvement here for Merkur. So yeah, that's my first impressions of these kind of reissues of the first Chinese dive watch here by Merkur Watches. Do really like both of them, definitely, at least stylistically. And they've got some really nice details too. They do lack in terms of water resistance versus some other options, predominantly because they're hand wound. But, mechanical dive watch at this price, I mean, you can't be too fussy, can you? They're both linked below, along with any discount codes, like I said earlier, see what I can find. It does surprise me by now that nothing's come along from China, especially, that's been able to topple the Duro. But I have got 2 other watches that I ordered from AliExpress that are coming soon. You never know, maybe one of them will break the duck. Make sure you subscribe for that one.